Good morning. Welcome aboard.
Good morning, Will.
Good morning.
Hi, Karam.
Good morning.
Thanks for joining us, Karen. Heather.
You're welcome. Yep. I'm glad to be here. Yep.
Great.
Oh,
You got your coffee. Thanks. All right, on this cold morning.
Yep.
I do. I have tea actually because I already drank my coffee and my limit is one.
Excellent. Excellent. Well,
I if
thanks.
I
Good for you. I never stop with one cup.
That's the
I'm a,
problem.
I'm a black coffee kind of guy, so
I'm just a coffee and a little bit of milk guy. Thank you for joining us, everyone, today for Coffee with the Casco Baykeeper. Stormy times call for action. We appreciate all of you joining us this morning with your beverage. Will Everett, I'm the executive director at Friends of Casco Bay. Astute friends at Casco Bay will notice that I am not, in fact, our Casco Baykeeper, Ivy Finoka. Ivy, unfortunately, this morning cannot join us in our virtual coffee shop because she is home with the creeping crud sickness that's going around. We wish her well and hope that she gets feeling better soon. And the show must go on, and we're going to sally forth here. Friends of Casco Bay, we work to improve and protect the environmental health of Casco Bay. We're excited to have you participate in this Zoom event. Today's event is on stormwater, one of the largest sources of pollution into the bay. So please use the chat right now. We'd love to hear from you all. What have you seen washed into our waterways during or just after a rainstorm? If you're walking along the street and it's raining, what have you seen washed down into a storm drain, which eventually leads to our waters, or washed into Casco Bay, which in our watershed is downstream from everyone? So throw that in the chat. And throughout the event, as you hear things this morning and have questions, please put those questions in the chat. At the end of the event, we'll try to get to as many of those as possible. Time-wise, I know we won't be able to get to them all, but please put your questions in and we'll try to get to as many as possible. I'm about to turn things over to Heather Kenyon, who's our Science and Advocacy Associate. We're lucky to have Heather aboard at Friends of Casco Bay. She's been on staff with us for 3 years, but it feels like longer than that because she interned with us as a law student. So, Heather, so glad to have you here, and I will turn things over to you.
Thank you, Will. Fortunately, Ivy has trained me well in talking about stormwater and stormwater pollution, so I'm always happy to cover for her. She is our lead advocate, and I am like her. I'm like her right hand woman. We work really closely together. So, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here with us this morning. We hope you have your coffee or your smoothie or your tea. This is the second year that we've hosted a Coffee with the Casco Baykeeper program. And if you attended last year, you tuned into a program where we also talked about stormwater. And specifically, we were talking about the Department of Environmental Protection's process in revising the state stormwater rules. I'm going to abbreviate the Department of Environmental Protection to DEP, just so everybody knows. So we did that last year, and here we are talking about stormwater again. So why do we keep talking about stormwater? Well, because it is a problem that continues. It's the largest uncontrolled source of pollution to Maine's waters, and it's increasing. So we have to figure out sensible and better ways to develop our landscape so that we're not destroying the natural flow and filtration of water. We want to prevent all of these pollutants from entering our waterways. So that's where we're at. We have two guests today. We have Karam Gangor. He's a senior environmental engineer with Maine DEP. He oversees review of permits that implement the state's stormwater rules, and he has led the process to update those rules, which is why we had the program last year. We were talking about how those rules were going to be updated, and now we're revisiting them. We also have Representative Art Bell. He is with House District 103, Yarmouth. He has spent so much time on the Royal River, Casco Bay, and he's seen the impacts of stormwater pollution. So he's introducing a bill this legislative session to study how Maine can expand its efforts to address stormwater pollution. Thank you both so much for being here. And I'm going to dive right in with some questions for Karam. And then when we wrap up, I'll turn over to you, Representative Bell, with some more questions. Karam, thank you for joining us and talking about your favorite topic.
Yeah.
Can you explain to us what stormwater pollution is?
Yep, let's start from there. So, stormwater is basically the excess precipitation and snow melt that is not soaked into the ground and runs off the surface. So, it can be generated by rainfall, snow melt, or both. And the pollution associated with stormwater manifests itself mostly directly by degradation of the stormwater quality, surface water's quality. And there are two aspects of stormwater that are really important in terms of stormwater pollution. One of them is the stormwater's quantity, which can
Mm-hmm.
be the volume of the stormwater or the flow rate of the stormwater. Yeah, all right, this one is a great one. Great. The quantity of the stormwater. So what we're seeing on our screen right now is a flooded road during precipitation event. So that is a quantity impact of stormwater. It's not being drained away from this road surface, and it's basically impacting those two poor drivers that have to go through that, right?
Right.
That's the quantity aspect of it. There's the quality aspect of stormwater, which is more related to the pollutants that the stormwater picks up as it travels off the surface. And as you can see, like the stormwater is collected in many cases. In this case, there's a stormwater outfall that discharges that stormwater. That discharged stormwater has a mix of different pollutants in it that impacts the water quality, the aquatic organisms, and then impacts the water quality. Those pollutants can be sediment, can be metals, nutrients, and chloride, which is an emerging one, which we may talk about a little bit further down the road in our
Yeah,
conversation.
we might, because I love talking about chloride.
Yeah.
I've written about it a number of times. So, okay, that's really helpful to break down stormwater pollution into those two different categories, quantity and quality.
Yeah.
So, why are you passionate about this issue? What is it about those two things that really, get your gears going?
I was thinking about that, and it goes back to my childhood, even, believe it or
Oh,
not, because when I was a little kid, I always paid attention to the manholes and the catch basins for some reason. And fast forward like 20 years, I, through some serendipity, I became an environmental engineer. And through a series of events, I ended up in Maine. And since 2016, for more than 9 years, I'm intimately involved in stormwater management. So, what makes me passionate about this is first, I can use my education, all the things I learned in my 25-year career in environmental field, I can implement them. And also, I can help people. I love learning, which stormwater management makes you learn all the time because it's a dynamic sector. There's always emerging issues that you need to deal with, complex or not. But you have to deal with things, and that's great problem solving aspect of it. I love it, the problem solving and helping people out in that interaction. I learn a lot and
mhm.
I can pass my information. So that's what makes me feel passionate about my job and stormwater management.
It's a great point that you raise about having to, stay on your toes and continue to learn about
Yeah.
stormwater because the data and the literature show that this problem is increasing. And can you help us understand, just at a high level, why stormwater
So,
pollution is increasing in some areas.
right. So there are two globally driving forces that makes stormwater challenging. The first one is human-induced land cover change.
Mm.
We to work, to play, and to learn, we need new and new structures, buildings, infrastructure, and as we build them up through urbanization, we are altering the landscape and we're adding a lot of impervious cover uh, everywhere in the world, but especially urbanizing areas. And that is a driving force that um, increases the stormwater runoff in certain cases hundredfold or even
Oh,
more
oh,
as compared to the undeveloped, like forested surfaces and natural areas, meadows, you name it. So there is that aspect of it, and there is another big issue that we have to deal with globally as humankind is the climate change. And climate change is ultimately putting more moisture in Earth's atmosphere, and it is resulting in more precipitation in a lot of places in the world. Not every place, but New England definitely more precipitation is happening because of climate change, and more intense events are happening as compared to the remaining part of the conterminous United States. So those are the two factors. What we have been doing, adding impervious area, which we
mhm.
will continue to do, and also the climate change. So those are two major driving forces behind.
Right. Okay. So, especially with housing and with people moving to Bing, we need places for people to live and we need places
Yes.
for people to learn and play.
Yeah.
So we're going to continue to develop but the point is we have to do it responsibly. So what is the state doing now, you know, to manage stormwater? What are our rules? When were they last updated? What's the process for that?
Yes. So the key legislation for everybody who's tuning in today that I'd like to highlight is the stormwater management law of the state. That's the key statute that was passed in 1997. So before that, we were still regulating stormwater, albeit on a more basic level. So the evolution of the stormwater rules and standards are like stormwater is a nuisance. It floods my property. Let's get rid of it. That was the
Mhm.
first reaction to stormwater. And that was drainage based, gray infrastructure based approach. And then we passed the stormwater management law, which started looking at the stormwater management in a more holistic way. So that's the key one that passed in 1997. And as a result of that, my department, DEP, has been charged with the administration of this law, the implementation, day-to-day implementation, and the department has a series of chapters consisting of myriad of rules. So one of those rules related to stormwater management is Chapter 500. That is basically setting the standards for certain development projects disturbing one or more acre
Mhm.
in the organized areas of Maine. So Chapter 500 is the main rules that basically set the standard. And a lot of municipalities model their local ordinances using Chapter 500. And we have Chapter 501 and 502. Those are the supporting documents for Chapter 500. So,
Yes,
and the
chapter.
last time we updated it was 2015. So,
Okay.
yep.
So 2015, 10 years ago, we're developing more. We have climate change happening. It's time for another revision.
Yep.
So where is the department at in that current revision process?
Yes, we started a stakeholder engagement process in 2023. It was a year-long process. We tried to be as inclusive as possible and had a series of meetings with our stakeholders. And we're at the tail end of that official stakeholder engagement process, which will result in a stakeholder engagement process report. It's been distributed to the key stakeholders right now. We're waiting for their comments and we're going to finalize it. It's going to be published soon. I'm hoping late February or early March, we'll have our stakeholder engagement process report. And without giving any break, we will start drafting the new rules as a department staff. And along the way, we'll be keeping in touch with the stakeholders as we draft the rules and kick off the official rulemaking process, which will involve public comment opportunities. It's a well-structured rulemaking process, which we call major substantive rulemaking. So we're going to start it right after stakeholder process, and we're hoping to have the new rules in 2026 if everything goes.
Okay. I think you just said that we will not get a break.
I'm not getting a break. I'm not getting a break. So that's why I have the coffee right here. Coffee gets me going. So,
I'm
and
laughing because
yeah,
as you know, Ivy's been a part of the stakeholder process, which means I
yes.
secondarily have been part of the stakeholder process. No break. Got it. Okay.
Yep. She's not going to
Okay.
have any break either, I guess. So,
So that's awesome. We will share the link in the chat, everybody, to DEP's Chapter 500 page. You can keep, up to date if you find stormwater as scintillating as we do. So I think the last question I want to ask you, Karam, is before I turn to Representative Bell, is do those updates include absolutely everything that can be done when it comes to stormwater management?
that would be an overstatement. Absolutely everything. No, but we are definitely addressing some major issues.
Right.
We're taking our standards to the next level. Um, so that's going to be a significant improvement as compared to the current standards. Yeah.
Yeah, it will be a significant improvement, and we're really excited about that.
Yeah.
So, okay, that really set the stage for what stormwater pollution is
Right.
and where the department is at in updating its
Yeah.
stormwater uh, regulation, otherwise known as Chapter 500.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm going to bring Representative Bell on, and then we will turn back to you in a little bit for questions.
Great. Thanks, Heather.
Thank you, Karam. Representative Bell. Good morning. How are you?
How are you?
I'm good.
Sorry to
Can you
hear
hear?
Ivy's under the weather.
I know she is under the weather. There's like a wicked sickness going around, but I'm always here for her. So could you, um, before we get into the legislation you're introducing, tell us who you are and your district?
Yeah, so I'm Art Bell. I represent Yarmouth, which is House District 103. And my wife and I moved up here in Maine with three little kids about 27 years ago. And we landed on Cousins Island here in Yarmouth. And we have enjoyed life out here on the island. However, we when we look after rain events, we look out into the bay and we see the crystal blue water is turned a dark brown, not a dark brown, but a shade of brown that is was disconcerting when I first saw it, and now it's a regular occurrence with all the storms that we've been having of late. And I've learned working with you folks that not only is that just sediment that is a natural sediment that would be
Hmm.
washed down any river or stream, but it's also carrying a lot of the pollutants that Karem just walked us through that are Anthropocene, if you will. caused by mankind and all the development that we're doing over time. And those are the kind of things that disturb me. And I know that you folks have been leading the way, at least in Casco Bay, in collecting data and watching how the bay is changing. And it's disconcerting to me, and it's something I want to address.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's a good point that you raised, making the distinction between, yes, there is a natural sediment load that rivers carry, and that's probably always happened. But because we all live here and we live right next to the rivers that drain into the bay, the things that we put on the ground and the chemicals that we put on the ground sometimes end up in the river as well, and thus into the bay. So yeah, thank you for that. So you you know how much we work on stormwater pollution. Fun fact for everybody, our Representative Bell does bicycle tours. And one time I was out on Back Cove and I was standing on a stormwater outfall and I was taking water samples. And Representative Bell drives by with his tour and he says, I know her. And then he brought his whole tour over and we started talking about Friends of Casco Bay. And it was really heartening on that day to know, just to see somebody out there that cares. Um, so recognizing that Maine could do a little bit more to address stormwater pollution. We just heard about the Chapter 500 updates that are happening, and those are going to address a lot, and they're going to be a robust revision. There's still a little bit more that we think could be done. So, what type of bill are you introducing this session?
So it's a resolve to form a commission to do an intensive, in-depth study of all the issues related to stormwater. And the report will be due back. It'll involve, as Karem said, lots of stakeholders. And the report back will be before the end of the year, December of 25, so that we'll have time to set up a bill to actually address some actionable steps that we can take in the coming years. So yeah, it's a process that has yielded good results in the past, and I think it'll complement the work that the department is doing with the rulemaking and the studying that they've been doing. This will just complement and add to that, and also the climate action program that the governor has ongoing. They've identified stormwater as an issue, and so we have all these different resources. This will pull them all together and give us a comprehensive look at what needs to be done, and hopefully we'll have some actionable steps that we can start to begin to implement.
Yeah, so on that thread, why can you tell us a little bit about why we are going for this resolve in this study commission instead of just like, throwing a bill into the legislature with like, this is what the department has to do, X, Y, Z. Why are we doing this resolve interim step first?
We're just a little bit too premature right now. We've got too many different burners, open fires, and we need to collect all that data and get it all together and get everyone on the same page. And I think this kind of a resolve, this kind of a commission, a comprehensive look at all the different issues um, would be the appropriate way to address the issue.
Okay. And so the commission, as I understand it, it would be a number of different people. It wouldn't be just the legislator. It wouldn't be just
The
the department. It would be some
uh,
different people involved compiling all the
stakeholders
data.
and science, the different science folks around the state, and communities. I know
Mm,
my community will be actively engaged in looking at what we know and giving data to the commission.
great. So we have this resolve. The, the legislative session is months long. Where are we at? Where is this bill at in that process?
Yeah, so we're here we are in early February. This bill was submitted way back in December. Our cloture deadline was January 10th. Once again this year, the very ambitious legislature has filled the coffers with lots of bills,
Mhm.
over 2,000. So we're LR 889 is our resolve, and it is not been printed yet. I was in Augusta yesterday. I checked with the revisor's office,
Ah,
but it should be coming out soon. And
okay.
and that will give us the mandate to begin to get an appointment, a hearing set up, and it'll come to the committee. I serve on the Environment and Natural Resources Committee, so it'll come to our committee, and yeah, we'll begin to have the initial hearing, and then hopefully get this bill approved and voted in favor, and then get this commission off and running.
Okay, so even though the bill hasn't been printed yet, we did submit some language, some suggested language as to how we think the resolves should be shaped. And we had some questions in that resolve that we think would be really important for the study commission to answer. Can you share some of the questions just so everybody on this call can get a sense of where we're thinking, you know, the study commission should go with their study?
Actually, Heather, I'll leave that up to you. Um,
Oh,
in in I don't have it in front of me exactly what those questions would be. I mean, I could
don't worry, because I do.
identify actual and potential effects of stormwater, compile scientific stormwater data, prioritize strategies, recommend policies and tools, identify barriers such as staffing and budgetary issues. These are some of the issues that will need to be addressed.
Yeah, you got it. That was perfect.
Good job.
Okay. So, the study, if it's passed, the study commission would sit basically through the rest of this year. And then how soon might legislation from that study commission be introduced?
In January, a year from now, a year from now.
Okay. Okay. So a year from now.
The second,
Um,
132nd legislature.
okay. I want to leave enough time for questions. So I'm going to ask you one more before I bring Karen back on screen and we answer some questions from the chat. How can people learn about this bill and when it's scheduled for hearing? Is there an email they should sign up for? Is there like a notice email?
Yeah, if you were to sign up for information from the Environment and Natural Resources Committee, once the bill gets printed, as you said, then it'll show up on our agenda, on our calendar.
Okay.
You'll get notices as to when those hearings are. You can attend in person or you can attend virtually, and share your testimony and your thoughts and concerns, and that would be very helpful for all of us to have a more comprehensive look at what's going on.
Okay. I will caution everybody that I'm of course am on the listserv for the Environment and Natural Resources Committee, and they send a lot of emails.
Yes, we
So we will let you all know how to sign up for the emails from the Environment and Natural Resources Committee. We, Friends of Casco Bay, will also just let you know when we need your help on this bill. So you have a couple options there. So that was a great overview, Representative Bell, of where our bill is at this session. So I'm going to invite Karam on, and we're going to take a couple of questions from the chat, and I'm going to throw them at you and see if you can answer them. Okay, so Karam, I think this question is probably for you. Which towns around Casco Bay have combined sewer and stormwater systems. And can you talk a little bit about how sewer
Um,
and stormwater are two separate things, but are sometimes
right.
the same
So,
thing?
so that's the interesting thing about how DEP works. I need to just explain that before getting into that question
Okay.
because combined sewer overflows are addressed by my esteemed colleagues who work under the Bureau of Water Quality.
Mm,
My bureau is Bureau of Land Resources, so I'm not really privy to the details of combined sewer systems. I'm interested in following the work they do as an engineer. So going back to the question, there's clearly Portland is an
mm,
example there for combined sewer systems, and there are a couple of other towns. And one thing that I know, because as I was writing the infrastructure report card as a civil engineer for the stormwater uh, in Maine, as a part of the Society of Civil Engineers member, uh, I noticed that we have very good combined sewer overflow reports published through DEP. Whoever is interested in that, what's happening in the CSO world, I would recommend them to check out our website and get the latest progress. There has been
okay.
quite a bit of progress in terms of the volume of combined sewer discharges uh, to our waters, and there's still investment going on. So,
Okay.
yeah,
So, and right now we are talking about just stormwater.
yes,
We're not
yeah.
talking about the
Combined
infrastructure.
sewer is like a little bit in the world of the wastewater because you're basically combining it stormwater with the wastewater. So, yeah,
That's helpful. Thank you.
yeah.
Something that you and I didn't touch on when we were talking about Chapter 500 is what major changes are being considered in the revision process.
That's a very good one. So one of them is about runoff volume reduction.
Mm,
So our current rules do not necessarily address the runoff volume increase that happens as a result of land development. So we're going to be introducing some standard for certain activities to clamp down on the runoff volume increase, which is a crucial component of low impact development approach. So that's going to be one of the new items. And the other
okay.
one is sensitive and threatened regions and watersheds. We're contemplating on introducing a new list of watersheds and regions in addition to the ones we have to protect certain areas from the stormwater impact and water quality degradation in the future. These are the areas where development has been happening and will
Mhm,
continue on happening. And most of the people here know that, it's very easy to impair the water quality and it's very hard to restore it.
mhm.
So that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to just do the right thing to protect the water quality in areas where development is happening. That's what this sensitive and threatened regions and watersheds approach is about. The third one is we're coming up with um, for the stormwater system design. I'm getting into the a little bit nerdy side of things about the design of the stormwater control measures, or people know it as BMPs. So we're trying to make sure that these systems are designed to address the pollutants of concern in a
Mm,
given area. So they're going to be more pollutant specific, and we're going to try to make sure that designers use nature-based approaches more than like structural complex approaches. They need to consider the nature-based approaches first and then consider the more engineered approaches for stormwater treatment. So that's the framework in a nutshell, the most important new uh,
okay.
provisions of Chapter 500 that we've been thinking.
I like that you made the point that we should, from the beginning, protect water quality as opposed to going back after water quality's been degraded and trying to fix it,
Yeah.
because that is so hard and so expensive.
Yeah.
And especially now, we have engineers whose minds I don't quite understand, have some really amazing ideas at how that can be done
Mhm.
this day and age. Great. Representative Bell. Of course, Friends of Casco Bay is supporting this study commission, this resolve that we put in this session. Um, is there any other, are there any other organizations that are supporting this bill? We are, are we part of a coalition that has also supported this bill?
Thank you for that prompt, Heather. Yes, the Environmental Priorities Coalition, which met back in January, they looked at all the different bills that were trying to address environmental issues and selected a priority list. They do this every year, and the Stormwater Resolve has made that list, and it was well received at a presentation back in early January. And yes, so that's a real that's a coalition of 30 some odd environmental NGOs around the state. And so that really shows you the interest that folks have in this matter.
Yeah, that's a good point. Oftentimes, Friends of Casco Bay can be the only person in the room working on an issue. In this case, we have 39 organizations from across the state who have identified that, oh yeah, this is really important. We should support this. So obviously we'll be working, at the state house to pass it, but so will all of our partner organizations, which we're super excited about. Okay. So I think this question might be for you, Karam. Does DEP have, and this might take some background explaining first, but does DEP have resources to enforce stormwater and erosion controls at construction sites? So like while the development is happening, how does that process work as opposed to Chapter 500, which is, kind of afterwards?
So one of the statutes I didn't mention is the erosion and sedimentation control law of the
Mm,
state that applies to, actually, it has a broad blanket. Right now, it applies to everywhere in Maine. And my bureau is basically uh, intimately involved with day-to-day administration of the law. There's that too. So going back to the question, we have a field services team in my bureau, and they are constantly responding to complaints about construction site discharges. And
oh,
also they are, um, at the same time, they are doing some routine inspections to the construction projects that we permitted. And my team gets involved in some of those inspections as well. So we're collaborating. My team, which is the stormwater engineering team, and the field services staff, we just tech team, and we work on construction site compliance. We have a program that's been working pretty well, which is a third-party inspection program for the projects that we permit. For certain projects, we are requiring third-party inspection.
mm,
So qualified third-party inspectors are assigned to construction sites, and they routinely submit reports to us as well, which has been working pretty well because they're basically the department's, eyes and ears in the construction sites.
okay. So am I correct in saying Chapter 500 um, regulates how uh, a piece of land will handle stormwater when all the construction is done. But during the actual construction and all of those, equipment is moving through,
Right.
they have a different set of standards that they need to adhere to while they build.
So currently, Chapter 500 regulates both construction and post-construction stormwater management. So
Okay.
currently, as it is written right now and as it is implemented, it addresses both. But what we're considering with this iteration and update is regulating the construction stormwater water through main construction general permit, which is federally delegated permit to DEP by EPA. It's under the famous NIPD system under the Clean Water Act. So what we're considering is we can do it through MCGP with this time
Okay.
around. And new Chapter 500 can focus on the post-construction stormwater standards. But it's still in the works. It's
Sure.
early to say that we're definitely going to do it because we haven't even started the official rulemaking yet. So,
Okay. That's helpful. Thank you. We know we have a lot of questions in the chat. Thank you so much for all of those. We're not going to be able to get to all of them, but we're trying to get to some. Representative Bell, our organization is called Friends of Casco Bay, and that Casco Bay is a big focus of ours. It's our mission to improve and protect the health of Casco Bay. But this study commission, this resolve, is that going to just hone in on Casco Bay, or is it going to have a broader impact given that the state stormwater rules apply statewide?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry if we misled any of our viewers here today, but yes, this is going to involve the whole coastline, the Gulf of Maine, and of which Casco Bay is a big part. And yeah, so that's the breadth and of our study is to deal with the Gulf of Maine, the waters of the Gulf of Maine.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm glad that whoever asked that, I'm glad that you did, because we do focus a lot on Casco Bay, but when it comes to stormwater regulations, those apply statewide. There is no special, so to speak, rule just for Casco Bay. I think we have time for one more question, and I think Representative Bell, can you tell us, even just beyond this resolve, if a person wants to share their thoughts with a legislator, how can they do that? I think it's so important for our communities to feel like they can be involved in government, whether or not that's local or state. How can somebody get in touch with their legislator? How does that work?
Yeah. So we're all public officials, and all of our contact information is publicly available. Um, and we invite people. The beauty of the Zoom technologies now is that people from, Maine is a big state. Augusta is a long way away for someone up in the county, but they can participate in meetings in our deliberations via Zoom, and so that's one really big improvement that I've seen in my years in the legislature. But we do encourage folks to come and visit us and participate. Call us, email us, and we will respond. And something that's passionate to me is engaging with my constituents, but and anyone that is interested in this subject, and we can connect them with the appropriate resources.
Great. Thank you, Representative Bell. Thank you, Karam, for taking time out of your morning to join us and explain stormwater. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today for this important conversation. Stormwater pollution is a challenge. We can tackle it together. We work with, legislators. We work with the department. We work with the state to support smart policies, raise awareness, take action in our communities. Let's keep Maine's waters healthy and resilient for generations to come. We hope you'll stay engaged. We will give you ways to stay engaged, and we hope you join us in advocating for stronger stormwater protections. Thank you both. Have
Thank
a
you very
wonderful
much.
day.
Thank
Thank
you.
you very much, Heather.